Hopefully everyone can hear me. Yeah? All right. Welcome. I'm probably in the dead zone of the afternoon after a little lunch and ready for a little siesta, but hopefully we'll pick it up right now. All right, so I am honored to be here. A number of folks that I've worked with in my past asked me to personally come and show you what the world is doing in and around AI, but really maybe anchoring on my roots and my origins and my focus, my passion for prevention and how I've allowed that to carry through in my career and my personal life to truly prevent crisis. And all of us are probably very oriented to the detect and respond model. I recognize some people here. So this detect and respond model, while certainly fine and certainly healthy, really means that you call the fire department after the fire starts, right at the end of the day. The fire's out of control, you can't stop it, you call the fire department, and then you hope and pray that they make their way there before too much damage is done. I'm here to tell you, you don't have to wait until the response is needed. You can prevent. Let me say that one more time. You can prevent crisis. You can prevent attacks. I'm going to show you how, and how I'm applying that now into the world of general AI and human behavior, or what I call from cyber to human vulnerabilities. So hopefully it won't be, I only have a little bit of time too, so I'm going to have to go a little fast. All right, so yes, I think they did a much better job of introducing me. I think the only thing to really call out is probably my path all along the way has really truly been to try and find a way to see ahead, to predict and to prevent that which is predictable and preventable. And much of it is. All right, so let me start at the very beginning. So what helped me trigger this possibility? It's not fantasy, but reality. I thought it was fantasy long ago. A 20 by 40 foot hole at 23,000 feet. So if anybody's been on an airplane, I assume most of you have, and if you've been in a jumbo jet, I'm sure most of you have. If you've been flying over a Pacific Ocean and in the middle of the night, I'm sure all of that is very common for you, but this last part is probably not. So having an explosive decompression at 23,000 feet because a cargo door decided to open up in the middle of our takeoff. If you were a flight attendant that day or a passenger sitting in business class and looked out to the right side of the airplane, you would see the engines and much of the Pacific Ocean in pitch black darkness. Now, luckily, I was not sitting in business class. However, I'll explain where I was and why it matters. Here's a few. I'm not sure how people had the wherewithal to take pictures. I could barely find my ankles to grab, okay? But I was 19, I don't know, which by the way, you know it's all myth around getting into crash positions, but I'll tell you that later. And we need a drink to explain that one. All right. So, as it was designed, we were sitting from LA to Honolulu back in row 41. It was myself, my mother, and my younger brother, 10 years younger. And we were comfortable. We had flown from LA to Honolulu. We had the 5 seats in the middle of those 747s. We had 3 among 5. We were happy. But in Honolulu, we were offered the opportunity for an upgrade. Now, who amongst you would turn down an upgrade? Not many. So initially we didn't. We said, oh, this is fantastic. We can go up to business class, enjoy the lovely seats, the cocktails, the cookies, whatever the heck they had, but we didn't know the view that we would have. At that moment in time, when we were packing up to get ready to move up, it was simply taking way too long to pack up everything. Stuff was strewn everywhere. Couldn't find my shoes for 2 minutes. Like, where the heck were these things? Because I had everything kicked off. And the gate attendant who had come down to give us those passes was, look, we got to get going. People are starting to file onto the plane. And in that instinct, in that moment, I said, you know what? We're super comfortable here. I asked my mom, why don't we just stay here? It's no big deal. I'm sure we're really not even going to notice. Let's just stay. And in that moment, that decision is what prevented us from taking the 2 empty seats in the 5 rows of 2 seats that were on that plane. And my brother was probably going to be across the aisle from my mother. The way we planned this, we couldn't remember his seat, but we remembered us being on the right-hand side, like having an F and G or GH or whatever it was. But these are the souls that were not as lucky. And all of the work that went into identifying the root cause problem and getting a proper response by the FAA, NTSB, and United Boeing Airline were the 2 parents of Lee Campbell up in the top right. Those 2 people alone, and solely alone, were the ones that never gave up to get to the root cause of that disaster. So, initially, they just explained it away. Look, we thought it was a bomb initially. That's why we got interviewed for 18 hours back at the airport there by the FBI. But eventually, the airlines kept explaining it away. This is just an old age aircraft. I'm sure the door was rusty, couldn't really get it closed, some sort of explanation like this. But the parents of Lee Campbell never gave up. So after they actually got the Navy to go and actually find the door down at, I think it was 15,000 feet or something like that, and lifted the door out of the Pacific Ocean, did they discover the true root cause. It was a 2-part problem. The first, an electrical short. You've heard this, right? What does that mean? It means that a wire from A to B, the sheathing along that wire got frayed somehow over years of use, years of loading in and out luggage, something of that nature. And of course, it's a metal steel frame. So when that wire was exposed and hits the frame, triggered the short, which told the door either, they believe, on the runway before the flight to open. Now, of course, Boeing engineers, as brilliant as they are, said, no problem, but we have checks and balances for all this stuff. If that were to happen, no problem. There is a hooking mechanism, which you can see in the top right, that hooks onto the door, so that even if it opens up in mid-flight, it should grab it, so it doesn't explosively open and tear with it a hole like that. The problem? It was made of aluminum. And the door, of course, was made of steel. Steel, aluminum, not going to withstand the force pressure. So it simply tore it off, a design flaw, right? You hear design flaws all the time. All of these vulnerabilities or exploits or bugs, as they call it, inside of software, operating systems, you name it. These are all design flaws. These are absolutely avoidable. So 346 survivors, 9 that perished. This was my first alcoholic drink, believe it or not. Outside of my Nana giving me like a sip of her beer, Coors or something when I was a kid. And this was in the Red Carpet Club 2 nights after to go on an extended flight. You can see the black-eyed gentleman there. He was sitting right on the precipice. The gentleman next to him was the attorney, aviation attorney, that happened to be on the plane. That probably wasn't, a favorable outcome. But then my little brother and my mother down there on the left. And so this was the first time I realized, alcohol has a purpose. All right. Now, I have no idea. This was my favorite quote from this whole process. So after the many months that came and went, my stepfather, the reason why I had the upgrades possible was my stepfather worked for United. And we were going to visit him in Australia. It was like once-in-a-lifetime trip. So we were able to get the phone number and make contact with the pilot himself. Captain David Cronin, rest in peace. He was there in Reno, or in Lake Tahoe, and we made contact. I called him myself. I was in college, and I said, thank you so much for taking my call. I was a passenger of your flight. I just have one really simple question. I don't want to bother you. Can you please just tell me, how did you land the plane? Because all the news outlets, all the reports, all the early results simply said that it was impossible. This plane should not have landed on the ground. And his quote, I have no idea. That was one of my great wake-up calls of my life. How does he not know? If he doesn't know, who the heck knows? And he said, look, I got to tell you the truth. He says, when we got down on the ground and they pulled the cockpit recorder, flight recorder, and put it into a simulator, that's how this works. They put it into a simulator and then had 3 separate pilots, himself, the co-pilot, and a third independent, run over 200 simulations, and they all crash landed in the ocean with no survivors, effectively. That's all he had to tell me. I said, thank you very much. I know what I need to do now. I'm good to go. And I think it's what gave me the inspiration and perspiration that went into looking for the root cause of problems and getting ahead of it before the bad guys do. Cybersecurity was my outlet for that. Unearthing, discovering, I discovered countless ODAs and vulnerabilities inside of countless software and even hardware. As you can see in this image, this is a little stubby antenna, right? Yagi antenna, directional. Does anybody know what that was used for in my demo many years ago? This is a good trivia question, maybe. Was it hacking Wi-Fi? No, it's a good answer, though. Exfiltrating data, good, but no. So this was, on stage, RSA 2012, I showed how to hack an insulin pump. So 4,000 people in the audience, and I started to wave the antenna around. I wanted the shock and awe. I wanted people to be nervous, worried. Why? They would remember. It becomes kinetic. It becomes experiential for them. Sure enough, I had software, and of course, all of the insulin pumps in the audience started to show up. Now, of course, we were safe and responsible, as you would, of course, expect. So every single one of these could not be exploited by the software, only the one that we had on the table. So as we click on it and dump it all of its insulin, as you probably know, if you don't know, an overdose of insulin can kill pretty much 99 out of 100 times. And it was this example I wanted to bring to bear, that these cyber problems are not just, okay, yeah, we got downtime for a day or a week or a month or something, but this could impact critical life-sustaining devices as well. You could target it. Now, here's the true story. After my attack, that specific technique was used. Also, we discovered it in implantable cardiac defibrillators. So if you have anybody with pacemaker, as well as neurobrain stimulators, same manufacturer, same vulnerability. Now, what do you think this vulnerability was? Some really super elite nation state ODA? No.
No shielding.
What do you think it was?
No shielding.
What is it?
No shielding?
No shielding? No? Who said credentials? Okay, that's it. It was a hardened backdoor inside the firmware of an authentication key that allowed for QA to test each device that came off the line without the wireless sensor itself. So the pump is separate from the sensor. So of course, we discovered this and made it known. But we were also heavy into embedded systems hacking at that time, and we hacked in all kinds of stuff. Bluetooth devices, we could listen to phone calls, like all kinds of cool stuff. All right, so this was my big sort of reveal and revelation in 1989 was simply, you know what? We really need to go upstream and find out why they're falling into the river. So much of us are so attuned to saying, prevention's impossible. Never going to happen. Can't prevent. The ones that usually say that are typically, not every time, of course, but those are the ones that just don't know. You can actually prevent. I'm not saying 100%, but if you could prevent 99.9, something of that nature. And this is a big part of my push. And I could probably have used this slide ever since 1998 when I first started doing presentations. But this is the problem with cybersecurity, right? Everybody believes, prevention's impossible. And response is the only place to be. And it's just too late. Prevention, by my definition, actually prevents it. So it's sort of like that insurance. Why should I pay for earthquake insurance just because I live in California? I just moved here. I've never had an earthquake. I've never had a flood. Why should I pay for insurance? Once you've had a flood or you've been in an earthquake, you think, hey, this is probably not a bad idea is to have a little insurance. Prevention makes that all possible. And Cylance is prevention. But here's the real critical part. For any preventative step, the very first step, 0, it's actually thinking in first principles construct. And this goes back to, I'm sure, far earlier than Aristotle, probably Plato, Socrates, all the way on up. But it is about true, accurate information. You have to keep asking why. Somebody says, hey, this attack occurred. Okay, why did it occur? Oh, the user clicked on it. But why did a user click on it? Thought it was really safe and thought it was good. Okay, but why did we let the user click on it? Why did we let that malicious thing begin? And understanding the true root cause of how that exploit works and how all exploits work, you can actually get to a true preventative step 0 state where you can stop the cascade of failures that occur in a traditional attack. So this is what we have seen come of the AI world. So at Cylance, we built deep learning models on malicious and safe, and it was brilliant. Still is. But these are deep learning models on 2 data sets. Again, malicious and safe. What transformer-based LLMs are doing now is they're not predicting on 2 states, malicious or safe. They're predicting the next word, the next phrase, okay? And so I call today's AI just general knowledge. It's artificial knowledge. It's not even artificial intelligence. This is important. And what's happening in the space is, as you probably see as you play and use with all of this stuff, and you listen to any of the other vendors, anybody else talking, is this regression to the mean. You ask the same question of n number of AIs, no matter how much context you put into it, you will get a generic answer. It's been trained on generic data. It's going to get you a generic answer. Now you could duct tape and baling wire the thing. You can make it through a multi-agent flow, blah, blah, blah. But it's still all known. There's no way to give you unique unknown, or what we call the alpha, to deliver on that individual intelligence. We are all incredibly, we are all incredibly similar, but we're all incredibly unique. And the way that you see the world, the way that you perceive the world is truly unique. The experiences you've had, the scenarios you've been a part of, right? The companies you've worked for, the places you've lived, the jobs you've had, etc. They're all truly unique through a cognitive lens, how you think. So what if we could build an AI that thinks like you? I don't mean an assistant. Maybe one assistant doesn't think like you, right? I need a little coverage. I don't have the best ideas for every possible problem. But what if you could? And that's exactly what we've done at Wethos. So when you ask it, why do you exist? It gives you a meaningful, true cognitive answer. It thinks for itself. If you ask it a question that it's never been trained on, and it answers accurately, that's called unknown recall. So you have known recall, right? I tell you my favorite color is blue. I ask it later on, what color is your favorite color? It's blue. That's known. Unknown. Never trained it on what movies you've watched, or that you even like Star Wars or anything like this, and it predicts the next movie that you would probably watch over the weekend. And that's 100% what it does. And this does it every single time, over and over again. Now, some of you will say, I can do that. I could just take a general AI and I can give it all of my material and all this information about me and all this kind of stuff. Sure, as a predictive pattern, it's going to get you 30% accurate on the known and on the likeness, which is the third category. But on the unknown recall, it drops down to single percent because it only predicts the patterns of words. It does not predict the patterns of thinking, of cognition. And this is what we see when we build these things. Now, why does this matter? Not just does it empower every single solitary soul on planet Earth to be a superhuman, knowledge, decision-making, actions, right? And here's just another plot of the same data that you saw earlier. But it allows all of us to work together at the speed of AI. So now finally, we talk a lot about agents, we talk about leveraging this and that and the other thing, and of course the token tornadoes, or token typhoons I call it, that occur. If any of you have played with and used AI in any deep sense, especially agentic AI, you think about what agentic AI is, right? It's fixing a core problem in LLMs, which is error rate, sycophancy rate, hallucination rate, non-determinism. It's trying to solve for all these things. So it's duct tape and baling wire trying to call it in. And of course, it increases what? Token usage. Yeah, hey, if you want to maximize getting money out of your pocket, that's the play, man. That's it. Why not? I do not believe that this is required or necessary at all. By owning your own AI, now you control it. You control access to it. You control it as your identity, what I call the final identity in an age and world of AI to AI, and you become a potential contributor into the hive mind of decision making, of any enterprise, of any company, or of any public and community endeavor. So, as a final thought, you all have probably seen a lot of the verbiage and the words that are being used all around the show and just in the domain, and if you follow any of the crazy news stories that happen in and around AI, which I don't recommend doing, to be honest with you, it'll pollute your brain pretty bad. But you'll see that there's a zeitgeist here. There's something happening where the more that we are using AI, and by the way, the transformer-based thing, I believe Jan LeCun and all the new guys, SSI guys and everybody, it is dead or dying, traditional LLMs. We have to find a new way. And all of those guys are building what's called world models, 3D models. Okay, they're not word predictions, they're event predictions. They're building what I call inside out. models. What we're building, our own frontier models and foundational models, is the opposite. We're building the outside in. So we are looking at how our brains work between our ears. We're looking at the near infinite complex patterns of behavior that you believe are the right ways to exist, to make decisions. And we track that all along your behavioral development and awareness as you grow. And this is what makes us truly unique. And in a world where AI will be an easy, how many of you believe today that you have been targeted by an adversarial AI? Somebody that's used AI, or a nation state or a group or team, or anybody that's used AI to try to attack you? Anybody? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Okay. That sounds about right. But with the potential for every single one of you to be targeted at some point. It's so simple. I'm shocked that it is not more prevalent. It's so easy to leverage this stuff to be able to gain increasing levels of access into any sort of system, network, database stack, whatever, to be able to exploit. The only thing that can work at the speed of AI is AI. And if we build the unique alpha wave of defense and prevention inside of that AI, now we can get ahead of every attack, known or unknown, behaviorally. So not just looking at the entropy of a binary or the file size or all the features that we were so good at doing at Cylance, but we can take it to the behavioral side. And that's what we're doing at Wethos. Now, a lot of people, I like to end on a real positive note. And you can quote me on this, and you can come back years later and say, Stu, you're an idiot, you were wrong. And I'm happy, absolutely happy for you to do that to me in a public forum. It's totally cool. Let me explain, though, why I believe AI will not take your jobs. So first of all, you're already probably seeing that a lot of AI washing, these companies that are saying, yeah, we're going to lay off 1,000, we're going to lay off 10,000, we're going to lay off X, Y, Z. And they believe that the AI will replace whatever function it is, but at the end of the day, most of them, if not all of them, come back and hire the same or almost the same amount of people to fix what AI has messed up. The biggest reason why, though, and if you just remembered one thing of this talk in and around why your jobs are not really in jeopardy, it's this first one. There is no way to hold AI accountable for any bad decision. And I don't care what kind of company you run, but you are used to people and every decisions having bad outcomes and then having to go fix it, having to correct it, having to help, guide, or mentor, or improve, or whatnot. You can't fire an AI. I guess you could, but then you just go jump over to the other side of, if you're on Grok, you go to OpenAI. If you're on OpenAI, you go to Gemini. And they all answer the same exact ways. There's no uniqueness between them. So ultimately, you can never get out of this vicious circle of unaccountability. And this by itself is where humans will be needed in all decision making. Now, you could make an argument that it's not a one-for-one. Maybe you don't need all these same employees to do the same function to have accountability, but it's 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 5-to-1, something. Second is, of course, knowledge does not equal experience. And I probably could spend a whole hour just talking about this. Just because an LLM can predict the next word has no bearing on whether it understands the human experience of implementing that decision, acting inside the confines of our restrictions and whatnot. Plus, it can't even do simple math correctly. Again, it's word prediction. It's not mathematics. Third one is context. It is insanely limited context. So again, agentic systems bump up the token typhoons. And then lastly, it really is about mission. I've always been, right, wrong, or indifferent, a mission-driven leader. I always believe profit comes naturally when all people are aligned to the mission of what we're doing. And you get as much as the compute provides for you in an AI world. There's no way you're going to get 200%, 300%. You get 100%. Whatever the platform is for inference in this scenario is what it's going to give you. All right, so with that, I want to challenge everybody as you go back out there, try to predict the failure, okay? Try to prevent the next fall, the next problem. A little bit more, you can get to stuartmcclure.ai for any of this work as well. And if you want to get on as an early adopter to Wethos and build your own cognitive twin, go on wethos.ai and go to the Contact Us and submit your name, and we'll go through and put you on a list. So with that, thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thanks.